Welcome to the Amplify to Seven Figures podcast, where we look inside the mind of seven-figure entrepreneurs to see how they amplify their business and amplify their life. Let's welcome today's guest. Today's guest is a former NFL athlete, American Ninja Warrior on NBC, international speaker, and host of the Oh Shift podcast, and founder of Identity Shift Coaching. He uses cutting-edge science and psychology to upgrade how you operate so you can elevate your life and business to reach your full potential. After being given away into foster care at 3 years old, being adopted into an all-white family at 14, losing his NFL career to injury, he learned how to shift at a very young age. And now his life mission is teaching others how to make shift happen in their lives. Please give a very warm welcome to today's guest, Anthony Trucks. How you doing, Anthony?
Well, I need some little sound effects.
I need some of that.
Get some in your life, my man.
Absolutely. Love it. So, listen, firstly, I wanted to jump in straight to something that I found when I was reading up on you. Now, I took the quiz on your site and I came out as a doer, and people will know what that means in a second. So Can you share with our listeners what are the 4 different identity types?
Yes, there's 4. It's called based on slow or go grid, right? There's slow identities and go identities. It's based on what you do in opposition or opportunity, right? So in opposition, you can either shut down an opposition or choose to level up and tackle it, or an opportunity, you can choose to embrace opportunity, or you question it and it passes you by. And where those 2 intersect is where you determine what your identity is. So the 4 are dreamer, dabbler, defender, and doer. So a doer is the top level. There's also levels to a doer, though. Like there's different tiers of doer. But the majority of people that are having success, they will all be able, you'll look, they're like, oh, those people are doers, and you'll see it's how they handle opposition and opportunity.
And as regards the doers, because it sounds like you say, that's where people need to be to get to where they want to go. So if someone starts off in that dreamer state where they're going slow, they're thinking about the things that they could do, but never really doing any of them.
Yeah.
Like how does someone take that shift in identity?
Yeah.
Get to being a doer.
It's a great question, man. And to be honest, that's the work I do, right? It's the work I do is in the realm of identity. It's not just me making a random quiz. And there's a lot that goes into, we'll call it the real tangible part of identity and how it shows up in our life. Because identity, most people think, oh, it's this philosophical, spiritual, internal being thing. Like, no, man, my identity is what gets me here on time. It's what allows me to do the reading I do, to create what I create, to show up how I show up, to build the business I have. It shows up in the nooks and crannies of who we are. And so when you are at a dreamer level, that means that you don't take on opposition very well, and you don't approach opportunity very often. And so you dream about a lot of stuff, but that's all you ever do. And so in order to progress forward, you have to take a look at, do I tackle opposition when it comes up? Can I fight? Or do I kind of run away? Or when opportunity comes, do I actually go after it? Or do I make a bunch of excuses why it all could go wrong because I have fear of failure, whatever it is, and then it ends up passing us by? So a dreamer needs to tackle opposition and actually embrace opportunity.
And you mentioned about the doer, that there was different levels of a doer as well. So can we just explore that? I mean, I went through my own identity shift and did a lot of hypnosis that really, really helped with that process. But I mean, interesting. So you've got these people who from a walker, then like all the way up to an astronaut.
Yeah, different levels. So we bypass defender and dabbler. Dabbler's shiny object, just to kind of, I guess, round it out just before we get into the doer part. I guess dabbler's a person who says, look, I'm taking opportunity, but the moment opposition comes, I shut down. So I feel scared and I go to the next opportunity. So dabbler, or your shiny object person. A defender says, I've had success and I'm deathly afraid of anything going wrong. So I'll tackle and battle anything that comes to attack the castle I've already built, but I'm not taking an opportunity because it might take away from what I've already accomplished. So there's a fear, like the undefeated boxer, I'm undefeated, so I don't want to go in there or anything that's going to take away my undefeated, right? So you keep that. Now the doers have different levels, and it's based on the amount of energy that they actually personally put out and the speed at which they'll succeed. So there's walkers, which says I'm self-powered. I don't take anybody's insight. This is the self-made human, right? I'm self-made. So you don't learn, you don't go out and seek information or insight or helps, you do it yourself. And if you're traveling a long distance, let's say I'm in the States, there's, on one side of you have the West Coast, California, and the East Coast, you have Florida. If I'm trying to travel from California to Florida to get something special, well, if I walk, it's going to take forever. I might never get there. I might die along the way, right? It's just, and I exert all my own power. That's the person who says, I'm going to do it on my own. The next level up becomes a person who's what I call a rider, right? I can ride a bike or a skateboard. I ride something. So it's an external thing. So what I do is I may use a little bit outside power. So I might read an article. I might go and like watch a YouTube video. I might consume a little something. So I'm getting a little bit of energy, but I'm still just me doing my thing by myself. Then you have a person that's going to say, I'm a driver. Now, a driver takes a little bit more of an investment. You got to actually go and get a driver's license. You have to go and buy a car, right? But what it does, it says, I'm less self-powered. It's the person that says, I'm going to go get a training. Maybe I go to a seminar. Maybe I read a book, right? I do a little bit more to get some outside help and engagement, but and I have this vehicle to get me there so I can get there faster, but you still got roadblocks. You still got, stop signs, intersections, detours, all the stuff that could slow you down. And then you have what's called a pilot. And a pilot's that next level human. Again, think about the investment from a car to a plane, right? Pilot's license, buying an airplane. The investment's higher just of time and financial. But what it is that person that says, look, I want to get to Florida as fast as I can. That's where the goods are at. So I'm going to get someone to help me elevate above it all and get rid of roadblocks, right? So this is going to be the person that says, I'm doing a mastermind. I'm hiring a coach. I'm getting into a program. I'm doing something that puts me above the rest of the people and straight shots to where I want to go, right? Because that's what coaches can do. And while everybody's going to Florida from California, you have the extra level of people like who are the Kevin Harts, the Rocks, the Tony Robbins who say, look, you guys are all trying to go to, I don't know, Florida. I'm trying to go to the UK, man. I'm trying to go to Australia, or I'm trying to cross the pond. I'm higher, I see more. And the astronauts are a different level of thinking. That's why if you get in a room with those people, just listening to them talk, your brain goes, I don't know what's going on right now. Like anytime I'm going to a higher level room, I'm like, wait, what? I didn't even think of that, right? Because the brain operates at a higher level. They're seeing more. So people are doers. There are a lot of doers in this world, but it's not just saying I'm a doer and I'm done. It's like, okay, what level of doer are you? What level of investment must you take? Because again, from a pilot to an astronaut, again, different level of investment of time, right? So that's kind of the elevations of a doer.
And I mean, interested on the astronaut level. So is that level for people like you say, like Kevin Hart, the Tony Robbins, or the Jeff Bezos of the world? So would you say like a lot of top level entrepreneurs and would be more of a pilot level then, just to kind of get a stand in there? Yeah,
I would say that there's there's difference between like a prop plane and like a B-52 bomber. There's different types of like F-14 jets. You have different types of planes. Once you get to that level of saying like I'm above it and I'm in getting insight, like when I first started out, I hired a coach, right, to help get me where I wanted to go. But I was a plane, and I'm a pilot taking a little bit higher level. But there's other guys. I mean, there's programs you can invest in that are $800, $8,000, $80,000. There's levels you can progress. So that pilot level, there are multiple different kinds of jets I look at, or planes that'll get you there faster. So, but it's different than being an astronaut. It's a difference between saying, like, I could fly a plane, up in the air about 1,000 feet, or I can go 35,000 feet. But to go from the actual sky to space, that's a vast different tradition, like progression. Like talking about going to outer space is different than any kind of plane you get in. That's why there are levels of entrepreneur in that bubble of being a pilot, in my opinion. And then once you get outside of that, some people are in a whole different stratosphere, man. They see a world that we just don't see.
And do you think there's that flip almost sometimes? Some people be like, something happens in their life and then they're able to flick that switch. And I actually want to tie this back to, you grew up in the foster care system, and we were just talking beforehand, saying that I was kind of on the other side of that and saw what it's like the foster care system is like from a UK perspective. And so how do you feel having that kind of upbringing and those kind of challenges has helped you become the person you are today and build the business that you've got today?
Yeah, there's a couple things. There are two quotes that I think are heavy in a sense of how they fit to this. The first one is this statement: "It's a smooth sea makes not a skilled sailor."
Yeah.
It's a simple one. I don't even know where I heard it. I wish I could remember where I hear some of these things, but I've known it for years. And the statement, I guess, at face value is what it is. If you have a smooth sea and you never have to fight a storm or a rough ocean or whatever, you never really get the chops to be able to hang when the ocean gets rocky, right? So you're not a skilled sailor. You haven't been under pressure long enough. And so for me, I realized that whenever I had hardship later on in life, I can handle it better than those who didn't have hardship at their early years.
Mm.
Because if what happens is tough is when you get older and you haven't really gone through some real difficult things, what happens is you have more responsibility. I have more money, I have more team, I have more, more people relying upon me to handle some things. So if something goes wrong and I shut down as a human, well, everybody's affected because I have more responsibility. But if I did it when I was young, unfortunately, I did have it when I was young, I understand how to navigate it and survive a little bit better. So when like if the pandemic hit, when most people are running around freaking out because let's say that the storm is rough and we're at sea, they're all trying to hunker down below deck and figure it out, and they're freaking out. And for me, I'm up on the deck sipping tea, just yelling at the rain. It's a different, like, I got this. And so I can manage this. I'm a more skilled sailor. So my foster care years and coming up, like I was given away, I was beaten and tortured, weird stuff, man. But as much as I don't like it, I appreciate it. I
Mm.
appreciate the strength it gave me. The other quote is it's tied to, I think I forgot it for a second. There's two quotes. One is the smooth sea. The other question you asked, oh, this is the other one. So the other one has to do with what I was forced to figure out when it came time for me to enter the world as a first, like as adopted, the first time I knew I had like a family and a home. And the second quote is what you create creates you. And
Mm.
this leads into the identity portion. So when I was 15 years old, I tried my hand at American football and I was really bad at it. That was horrible, man. I couldn't catch a football. I couldn't run very fast. I kept getting hit. Like, so not only did it emotionally hurt because I was bad at it, it physically hurt. And so I went through this journey of like not wanting to do it, wanting to check out, like we all do. When things get hard, we all want to find ways to remove ourselves because who wants to keep subjecting themselves masochistically to something that they're not good at and just feel the pain for no reason? So we'll be like, we make excuses, we run away. And I did that at first. And then I had a moment of like a wake up, we'll call it. And I was like, no, I got to figure this thing out. So I went and I leaned back into this football thing. And it hurt still, like I wasn't good. But I gave the energy, man. I chose to be great. So I got to be great and do what great needs before I know I'll be great. And I just did the work. And so, day one, not so good. Month one, still not great. Month two, getting a little better. Month three, like it's picking up. Month four, like I got some traction. Month five, like, okay. Month six, like I'm pretty good. Seven, I'm dope. I'm feeling amazing about myself. And here's what took place. In between these years of football, I did this work and I had teammates that were like, Trucks, what are you doing out there? You can't catch a football. You can't run. You suck. Give up. What are you doing? You're wasting your time. All that. And then I remember showing up the next year, the next season, and I was dominant. I was faster. I was stronger. I was meaner. And it wasn't because I was much bigger. I mean, I might have put on 5 pounds at most. I'm still a buck 60. I'm a tiny little guy. My sophomore year, I'm 15 years old. I'm not that big of a person. But here's what it was. I had this internal thing where I would not let you take what was mine. I had done way too much work in the dark for you to take what is mine in the light. And when you have that sense of ownership, no one can take what's yours. And I believe in entrepreneurship, that's one of the things that I have oddly built into my life and how I do things is I will do more work in the dark than anybody else will know. And it's not to go brag about it. It's so that I will fight for what I deserve in the light. Because we all do that. We will all fight for what we deserve. So a lot of people, they want to fight for what they deserve up here, and they will. If I know that I earned, like in the background, the time I put in, the energy I put in, the people I've connected to, the work I've done, if I know I deserve something up here at a certain level in here, I'm gonna fight for that. I'm not going to go quietly into the night. But here's the thing. If I didn't do the work in the dark and I deserve what's down here, I'll
Mm.
still fight for what I deserve. Self-sabotage, not working real hard, they'll stay here because I didn't do the dark work. And so for me, that what you create creates you. I created a stronger physical body, but my creation process created a different me. And that's one of the second quotes I use in my life. And I've found has been kind of the greatest part of, for me in entrepreneurship, it's not what I know, man, but it's who I am with what I know. And it's tied to those two things.
Yes, it's really interesting about the identity shift in general. It's also it sounds like that raising of your own standards of what you accept
Hmm.
from yourself. Is that right?
Oh, hugely. Yeah, because if you know that you've done, if you know in entrepreneurship, let's say you've read the books, you've gone to the courses, you've invested the money, you've made the cold calls, you've had the bad clients, you've handled the good clients and the bad clients, you've gone through the ringer, you've taken the licks from people for bad content. If you've done all that, you're not going to just tuck away and be like, ah, it was for nothing. Like you're going to say, no, I want some, because all at the end of the day, it's all an investment. And
Yeah.
as humans, if I make an investment, I want a return, man. I don't want to give you money and not get a better return, period. Right. So if I've made that investment, my return had better be confidence and a little bit of self-esteem and a little bit of knowing of like, I deserve a little bit more than what I'm accepting. So like you do go in a different tick simply because of what you've invested energy wise.
Yeah, it's something that we mentioned a few times on this podcast is sunk cost bias. Once you put, whether it's financial cost, time cost, or whatever it is, once you put that amount of cost in, you've got to get something out of it because you're just like, I'm going to look like even more of a fool now if I don't go into it. It
Yeah,
sounds
dude.
like you did that with the NFL and you've done that with business as well, right?
100%. It's been a staple of my life. And to be quite honest, I wouldn't say that growing up I knew what I was doing. It wasn't probably until about 6 years ago it made sense, or like we saw, the psychology of it landed for me. But I'd been doing it my whole life. To be honest, I went through one time and looked at my life and saw like about 30 plus different what I would call like life altering shifts, things that if other people experienced them, they usually don't get past them. Like there's a lot. I don't know why. I have God's given me a whole lot of weird things experientially, but I always have got past. And so I found like, yeah, that same, once you've put it in, you don't stop. You can't, because it's like then you have to go back and live with that regret of I put all that time and energy for nothing. And no one wants that, right? So, but at the same time, if you don't put that time and energy in, you don't get something. It's a very delicate balance of I put energy and stuff in, knowing that there's no guarantee for success, but I put it in knowing that I can't stop until I get success. It's a very interesting thing.
Do you think that's why a lot of people, when we're talking about the four personality types, a lot of people end up in the dabbler because they're scared that they get halfway towards the goal and then they're going to hit a bigger roadblock. They might be able to get through the first one, but they're like, I'm not going to get through the first one because if I get to the next one, then I'm not going to want to get through that. So they think so far ahead.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but the problem is they are thinking that far ahead with the skill sets of who they are now.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult and I think unfortunate way to think, because your identity, here's the funny thing, if you are met with crisis and difficulty, your brain actually releases like a certain proteins that connect more of the synapses and like the neural pathways, and it actually releases more of like your genetic code. There's some studies that show it. So it's interesting is difficulty and hardship in fact releases at a scientific level more of who you actually are. So when you go through the first hardship, you don't come out the back end the same person you were going in. Quite literally, right? So when you're sitting here saying, oh, if I go through this one, I can't make it through that. Well, yeah, you can't as who you are, but once you go through that, you're not who you are anymore.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird kind of thinking process, but the reality is you will gather so much insight and information that you'll go through and you'll finally be like, oh, yeah, I could do that, but you're not going to have that right now. And if you're waiting to get that to get started, that's an unrealistic way of looking at success, because success is all predicated upon what do you learn along the process to prepare yourself for each next step you run into.
Yeah, I think was it Matthew McConaughey or something did that speech where he said, oh yeah, I just want to be the version of myself in 10 years time. And then they
Yeah.
got to 10 years time and then it was like, oh, you got there then. He was like, no, not even close. I just want to be the version of myself in 10 years time. So like, is that something, well, let's just explore that a little bit more. So when I was researching you, I saw, you left the NFL due to injury, then you went and
Yeah.
opened a gym. It didn't fully work out. And like your words were, my marriage was falling apart, my children miss me constantly, and I got
Yeah.
out of shape all within the space of 2 years. So
Yeah.
what had to change within you to go from literally pretty much rock bottom to becoming the guy that you are today?
Man, a lot takes place in that little window of time. That was the crucible, man. That was my fire. It was because, as much as I would like to say, I got a college scholarship to university and then I went and played football, played the NFL, and life has been rocket ship from there. Like, that's not how life works. So So I came home from the NFL. I'd torn my shoulder. And like you said, man, I'd lost my marriage. I'd lost my family. I'd lost the business was doing poorly. I'd lost my shape. You know, I lost the confidence of who I was. And what happened was I'd be honest, a couple years, man, it was more like 6 years. It's funny to 8, longer than that, man. I think about it from 2000 and about 9 to 2016. It's about 7 years of a fog. And when I say a fog, what I mean is like I'm going through the motions, but I'm not really making any progress. You know what I mean? A lot of people, they're in a fog right now. They're doing the work, they're getting some things done, but like there's not really this big traction, you know, we'll call it. And so what ends up happening is they're getting into space of like they're just feeling burned out and broken. Like I feel like burned out and like I right. So here's what I did. I got to this point where I was at a rock bottom, bro. At one point I wanted to take my life. I was like, if this is life after football, like I've already hit the peak. Nothing can ever be as good as this. I'm done. Like I can't, you know, like what am I going to do? So what I ended up trying to do was trying to figure out a little bit of a different nuance of like, maybe I can do something different. And so like I came out of that dark fog of not want to be around like, and I started, what if I find a way to do better life? But I didn't know what it looked like. So I kept fighting against this battle of like trying to build my business, fix my marriage. And it wasn't working. And so I was in a fog even longer. And I started doing the things everybody does. I was drinking, partying, hanging out, you know, because when you don't like who you are, you don't want to hang out with who you are.
Yeah.
So you don't get quiet. You don't spend time by yourself. There's a lot of people who hate being alone because they realize they're never alone. They're with themselves and they don't like them. And so I had that for a couple of years, and it got to the point where I was doing my thing, man. I was single and had the kids, you know, every other weekend, and just, you know, 4-day weekends. I'd take trips to the Bahamas and do weird stuff. It just wasn't fulfilling, dude. The most empty life I'd ever experienced, just super empty. And then unfortunately, I lost my adoptive mom to multiple sclerosis. It was April 15th, actually April 14th, I was right, April 15th, 2014. I get the 15-14 mixed up. And so I was there, man, when she took her final breaths, and it kind of planted the seed of like, you've got to go do something. Like you can't just live your life in this bubble right now, doing this thing where you're slow rolling. Like it didn't feel like I was doing my mom justice because of the man she'd raised, you know? Like she allowed me to not become a statistic. In the United States, if you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. Like we're not supposed to do well. And this woman loved me at a level that was not normal or logical, and it helped me become a better man. And so I'm sitting here living this life that's not in reflection of the way that she loved me. And so I decided I'm going to figure out how to do this thing right. And I made her 2 promises. Promise 1 was I'm going to fix my life. Promise 2 is I'll do something with it. Like I'll give this love that you gave me in some way to the world. I don't know how yet. I just owned a gym, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. And so for another couple years, I was in a fog. I wish I could say it happened all of a sudden. Boom, man, I flipped it around, Paul, and it was great, right? But no, man, I ended up just kind of trying to float again. And, you know, I tried to fix my life, and I happened across this industry. Had no idea personal development existed at the level that it does. Happened across a guy named Brennan Burchard and this whole world of speaking and coaching. I was like, man, this could actually be something. Maybe all the craziness of my life has some use to the world if I share the story and learn ways to teach people how to do something. And so for another couple of years, I went through the process, and I started getting better at speaking. I was doing some things there, but it wasn't until January 1st, 2016, New Year's Day, that I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I hated me. I realized I really didn't like who I was, man. I would never want my daughter to be with a guy like me. I would never want my sons to be like me because I have 3 children. I would never want my mom to see me like this. And my God ain't let me into heaven living this life. And that was my wake up call. I wish there was like, you know, all of a sudden the clouds parted and out popped, you know, the queen, and she was on a purple blanket, you know, like that would be nice, but it didn't work that way. It was like this weird, like, I don't like you moment. And that was the catalyst to me digging in. And you asked what I did. Dude, I did all the things that my gut told me I should, but I never wanted to before. The apologies I had to make, the ownership I had to take, because I was the common denominator in all my problems. I was in all of them, you know. So one thing that was consistent. I wasn't a great father. I wasn't in good shape, and I needed to do some work, man. So I started digging. And what I found was the work I was doing was kind of like when I was 15. It was that stuff I was doing that was not just creating a better life, but creating a different Anthony, right? I had the information. At this time, I'd been reading the book. I've been taking a course. I've been doing all that, but I wasn't showing up the way I needed to with the things that I knew. And the better I became as a human to the work I did, the more I became that guy, put the investment of like, no, I can't just do this stuff and not have something come from it. I gotta get mine out of this, I got to get the return on my investment. And so I did. And fast forward 10 months from there, like that was October 2016, man. I got my marriage back together. I got in great shape. Businesses started picking up. Everything started rolling. And, I started turning into who I guess I am now at this point back then. So the last, we're almost on 5 years now, I have built a very successful business. I have a very dialed in and loving marriage. I'm a present father. I coach, I speak. I just got back from a 3-day speaking kind of tour between Austin and Phoenix out here in the States. Like I travel around and do some cool things. And all of it's because I finally understood who I needed to be to have the success I wanted, not what I needed to do. Because a lot of us know what to do. But here's the crazy thing. Like you could probably attest to this. There's been moments in time when you're living your life and like it gets to the point of like 6 o'clock at night and you're like, but I don't want to do this. I know I got to get it done. I don't want to do this. So I'll make an excuse of like, well, it's late. The kids are acting up. I don't have the email information I need. I didn't get this done. And we'll go, I'm just going to do it tomorrow. And then we press on. And here's a question I tell everybody who wants to get to another level. You got to ask yourself this question. Think about the person who has every single thing you want, the house, the cars, the money, the happiness, the joy, the fulfillment. Think about that person, what they are living like. I want you to ask yourself, in the moment, if they got to the same moment you are right now, would they handle it the exact same way?
That's powerful.
And the truth is they typically wouldn't, or they wouldn't have what they have, right? So when I had that realization, I was like, oh, it ain't what I know. Because I know the same things, but it's what I do with what I know, which is tied to who I am. Because if it's who I am, dude, I just do it. It's a natural key part of my humanity. I don't even question it. Like, I did that. Why? How'd you do that, Ant? I don't know. How could you not do that? So that's kind of where my work is led, is getting people to do the things to lead them to the point where they can step up and go, this is who I am. And who I am does this thing. Therefore, there's things I do because who I am, I get to have what I want.
On a slightly, probably not quite as powerful, but I can relate to that in the fact that, probably about 2 years ago, I was like, when I was younger, I used to have caffeine addiction, right? I'd have the Pro Plus, I'd have the Lucozade like 3-4 times a day, just like twitchy. And then a couple of years ago, I was like, right, I'm stopping caffeine. And then I started off by going, yeah, I'm trying to cut down on caffeine. And then it didn't work, because then a situation comes up and you say, I'll try. But now people say, oh, do you want this? And I go, I don't do caffeine.
Yes.
It's. Do you feel like the wording and the language that you use with other people and also internalize with yourself makes a big difference, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. To be honest, I think it's 100% that. But I look at it, how do you get to that point? Because you can one way say, I'm going to put it out there and live into the words I speak, which is one thing. And that's kind of what you're talking about there. Like, as opposed to saying, I'm trying to quit smoking, I'm not a smoker, right? Those are different. Same kind of thing you're talking about. But the reality is you can say it and live into it, which is totally cool. But I like to live into it, so I say it with authority. And in both ways are pathways to get there. You first have to craft what I call your zone identity. Because like when you're in the zone, like all of us, we talk about the zone as an athlete, but this zone operates in all of our lives. Like there's levels when I can pop in and be in a zone for years. Like I'm grooving, man. And all of a sudden I pop up a couple years later, like, dang, look what I created, right? You can be in a zone, right? And you can have your off days and still be in it. But the reality is that doesn't happen by accident. You have to actually craft, what does that look like for me? And when you craft that and live into that with the actions, after a while, you kind of just float into the ownership of like, this is who I am now, right? And you can do it by saying, I am this person, all affirmations, I am this person. And then in the moments when you have something going on, go, okay, I got to make sure I make a decision to be in line with the person I say I'm going to be. That's a part of it. But also there's parts of it of like, there will be some days when like, you got to do things that don't feel like they're you. This is where imposter syndrome creeps into a lot of people. Wow, I don't want to do that. That's not who I am. Or they'll make excuses of like, I don't have the time, or I don't know how to do that, which really is them saying, that's not who I am. I don't know how to do that. Right. And so I look at those moments and go, look, imagine if you had a moment where you felt like the imposter to say that thing, do that thing, because you might fail or someone might look at you funny, but you just did it anyways. And you came out of that. And all of a sudden you had success. You would look at yourself and go like, oh, look at me. Okay. I see who maybe I am kind of like that. Right. And when you have those moments of overcoming that difficulty, that's how you create that person. Then it's easy to say, yeah, that's who I am now. Like I am the non-smoker. I don't do caffeine. Like I don't do drugs. Like, no, I am a good husband. That, it's coming from moments when you leaned in and got that win when you didn't even expect yourself to win. And then you can say that with vigor and confidence because it truly is who you are. So the end result, I think, is the same. You want to be able to say that, but the way you get to feeling like it's who you are, there's a couple ways to get there.
Yeah, that's super powerful. And anyone who's thinking about, creating a new habit or just making a big change in their life, listen back to that part of the podcast because it's really, really important. So something that we ask everyone who comes on the show, and I'm really interested to hear your ideas behind this because of the process that you've been through and challenges you've been through in your life, is what do you want to be remembered for when you die?
Oh, man, that's a great question. Look at you. I have always had this thought of I want to have a really big funeral, like because I came into this world as this foster kid that nobody wanted, man. My own mom didn't want me, so I came in silent, solo, nobody cared. And I'm like, I'm going to leave this place with a celebration. And so when I think about being remembered, it's this, someone asked this question actually recently at a speech I gave on like Saturday, actually. And what it really is boiled down to for me is like my tagline, we'll call it, is like make shift happen, right? I want to make cool things. I want to make unexpected cool things happen for myself and my clients because I want them to get to a point where they look and go, man, that's cool that I got that done. Because it's not just what I did, but it's who I became, the shift that I made to make this happen. And so when I leave this world, I want people to look back and go, man, that dude, he really made some shift happen. And when I say, I'm not talking about like he built $1 billion business. I have no desire to be a billionaire. I don't wake up in the morning with that kind of tick. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those who have it, but I love that you have a dream. It's just not mine. And so what I realize is if I can live a life where people look and go, that dude, he was the person we didn't think existed on this world. He was the guy who statistically was not supposed to make it, but he did in certain areas. But at the same time, man, like he was joyful. He was loving. He worked. He taught. He was patient. He wasn't judging. Like I want people to like look at that because I know a lot of people in my life look at me and they go, I don't know if he's really that happy. And they have to, like, people have to look at social media and go, like, that guy, he can't be that happy. He can't be that, his family can't be that good. Like, it's got to be, they're waiting for me to crack, like they're waiting for that to happen. I just know it. At the core of me and things I see and people, you hear through the grapevine. It's like, I want my life to go to the end. And when they go, they have to look at it and go, there's no way that guy went 115 years and didn't crack. And that's not who he was, man. He really did exist. And maybe even then have that seed be planted of like, okay, if he could do that, like, and then maybe it really is possible. Maybe good people do exist. So that's a roundabout way to answer your question. But I just want to live a really good, fulfilling, inspiring life that other people get to watch and go, that dude, he's doing it right, man. And my right is just setting my own scale of what success is and unashamedly living it. Like I don't worry about if people go like, well, Ant, you could have built $1 billion business. You could have made X millions of dollars here. You could have done this right here. Yeah. But I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to do this. And I'm very happy with what I accomplished. You won't make me feel bad for a millisecond for not getting that because I wanted this. Like, that's how I want to live my life, is like I set my own scale. I lived into it. I had joy while doing it. And I gave joy to other people in the process.
Fantastic, powerful stuff there as well. And you did not disappoint on that question. So I really, really love that stuff. So just before we finish up today, what's one quick win that people can use to amplify their business or their life?
Yeah. It's the thing that people know already, and I wish that people would actually do more of, is you need to find a way to we'll call it business stuff. Because here's the thing. When I want to have a joyous life, I need to be able to shut work down in my brain and go be with my family and not stress off work. Have to. Because if not, then I'm at work when I'm at work and when I'm not at work. It's not, and nobody has to have fun. And so I realized the only way I can do that is if I can take the things that my business needs me to do out of my head and put them on paper so somebody else can do them. I tell people your business has got to be something that tells you what to do, not you telling it.
Yes.
It has to. And what I mean by that is if you can take the process that needs to be done and the day has to be done and put it out into a day of the week and steps have to be done, right? Then when you wake up, you can wake up with peace and go, okay, what do I have to do today? Oh, the business needs this done on this day at this time. Great. I'm going to do that because the business is telling me what to do. And what that means, if the business can tell me what to do, well, then it can tell somebody else what to do. Right? That's the big thing. Then it can tell somebody else in my company to do the thing. And then if they do the thing, I can make sure that I'm able to live the life the way I want to, but that thing gets done so the business still grows. And so that's been able to amplify immensely my life, my success, my impact, because now I don't have to do all the button pressing and flip switching, but everybody that I work with, like that I get to impact, they get the results because we do it right. But I also get to experience and I'll call it, I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor in real time.
Fantastic. And so for anyone listening, make sure you write down those things that need to be done. And if it's you that needs to do them, great. If it can be someone else, even better. And get that stuff out your head when you're not working. So finally, the final two questions, Anthony, before we wrap up. First one being, who would you nominate to be on the show next?
I just met a guy this weekend that I like. His name is Jeff Fenster. And Jeff is the CEO and founder of Everbowl. And the dude he's balling, bro. He's doing a great job he's building a franchise in the States. And he's a good dude, like he's a good guy. I got to meet him, his wife. He's got a couple kids. He's got a good heart, man. He's a good dude. You don't find that often with guys who are at a high level. And then a guy named Carlos Reyes. He owns some 31 businesses, he's an 8-figure-year entrepreneur. Like the dude's cool, but his story of coming from Mexico to the United States and the coyote is not the animal, but a person. Is a person who actually they get you across the border. They're like, run, and then you run. When they say stop, you stop. They stand up. They say stand up. When you got to move, they're guiding you through the border to get to America. He tells a story about that, and then he's now an American citizen. But the dude he's overcome the odds. But I love where his heart is anchored because he makes great income, but he's got a heart around it, what he's doing and how he does it. So those are two people I just recently met that I think would be great fits.
Super powerful. And then finally, where can people find out more about you?
Oh man, you can go to Instagram. If you go to @AnthonyTrucks on Instagram, you can. I have a book coming out August 24th. You can pre-order it now. I don't know if I even told you this, but if you want, I'm going to give away 10 free signed copies of the book. So your listeners, if they go to identityshiftbook.com, use the code AT7. Then you will get an opportunity to get one of the 10 books I'm going to sign and send out. But also, everybody's going to get an audiobook, the digital version of the book, as well as a free workbook that's $97, and I'm going to give away for free to all come with it. So just go there, identityshiftbook.com, use a code AT7. The book's called Identity Shift, Upgrade How You Operate to Elevate Your Life. So it tells the exact shift method I use that I talked about here that's been able to account for me making a ton of impact, ton of income, and having great influence.
IdentityShiftBook.com 100%. You got to go and check that out. If you've listened and resonate with anything that's been said today, then that's a absolutely no-brainer offer, and make sure you use that code as well. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes. So Anthony, it's been amazing having you on the show. Really appreciate you
too, man.
And you've been listening to the Amplify to 7 Figures podcast with me, Paul Ace, and my amazing guest, Anthony Trucks. Remember, amplify your business and amplify your life. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to the Amplify to 7 Figures podcast. To access the show notes, episodes, and this month's giveaway, head over to www.amplifyto7figures.com. Remember, amplify your business, amplify your life.